But you're the one that's got to become trustworthy as a salesman, not the client.
Yep.
You have to become trustworthy. The client, by the fact that they're here, they're worthy of my trust. Now think about that.
Yep.
Distinguish the two. How you can be the greatest salesperson on the planet.
Welcome to the Rethink Sales Show. My name is Derek Kelly. I am joined by Jim Shorkey. And Jim,
Thank you, Derek.
Trust is something that is so important to every sale. What is 1, 2, 3 techniques you would suggest to our audience of how to instantly build trust in a sales relationship?
First of all, no, that's instantly build trust. No, it doesn't work that way. First of all, trust for me is trusting in the process and trusting in the product and trusting in my team. And that's the whole dealership team in our case, no matter what your team is, trusting in. So I have to trust first in the different aspects of the of what we do.
Yep.
I also have to trust the customer, the client, that based on the information that I'm going to provide, I trust that they're going to make the right decision. And that decision might be that they don't buy a car from me. That's okay. Nobody gets them all. I never did. So I'm going to do the very best I can with every single client, 10 out of 10. I'm going to do the very best I can. And I'm going to close/sell a certain percentage of those people, which I'll leave that number off the table. And so in order to do that, I have to create so much value with the client that based on the value I've created, which is only going to come from them, they're going to tell me based on my questioning what is really important to them and what makes them very emotional. You mentioned very clearly when you and I were talking about safety, you hit it 3 different angles.
I know.
And so I better go to work on safety. And as I go to work on safety, I'm going to create value because my car has all these different safety features, create a high sense of value, and I'm going to earn.
That's right.
Notice my trust words. I'm going to earn your trust. I'm going to be trustworthy. Now stop and think about that. Stop. What does that mean to be trustworthy? I love words. Trustworthy. Tell me what that means.
It means that the worth, so worthy, right? There's
Worthy.
that piece of worth, that it's worth maybe the time or the effort to trust someone. And so you, for example, if you're trustworthy, they see the point in trusting you, right? They see the value that they're getting in trusting you. I've been on sales calls before where maybe I'm buying a software for our business,
Okay.
and then the pricing is a little unclear, and I start to recognize my trustworthiness of the company I'm talking to goes down because they're like, oh, we thought it was this, or you may get that, or you may get this. Happened to me like 2 weeks ago. That's why I'm referencing it. And it's not that they're not lying to me. I'm just a little I'm unclear of your documentation isn't clear here. This isn't clear here. And my faith in them, my trustworthiness in them goes down. Because I'm like, And that's where you start to see those cracks. Not that as a salesperson you have to be bulletproof. I don't think that's true. But you need to be honest every step of the way. If you don't know something, you talk about this really, hey, I don't actually know. Let me talk with my manager, right? Instead of like making it up, I think it's this. And then you get called out on it when, I think the price for this vehicle is actually this. You're wrong and have to then, that loses that credibility piece.
Okay, I profoundly disagree with a great deal of what you just said. And so I think you're getting it wrong. But that's my opinion. So I'm a very opinionated guy. So for me, what it means to be trustworthy is that it's an inside job. I have to do the right things so that I become worthy of you trusting me. I'm not worried about you being trustworthy. That's not my concern. I can't fix that. If you're not trustworthy, I still want to sell you a car. So that doesn't enter into my ideology here. Okay. I have to work very hard on becoming worthy of the client's trust. So what does that mean? What does that look like? Now I'm going to go to work on being worthy. How do I go about doing that? Well, I do that by asking the right questions. And those questions would be, what really matters to you, Mr. and Mrs. Client? What really matters? I want to know that. What matters? I don't care what you're selling. It could be insurance. It could be Bibles. It could be cars. It could be seeds. It could be what's matters to you? What's really important to you? I want to know this on a cellular basis. And then furthermore, I really want to know why. Why is this important to you? What's the reason why? And I didn't get into that with you when we talked about safety, but I'm going to do it right now. You mentioned safety very clearly. We don't have a lot of time. Tell me why safety is so important to you, Mr. Derek Kelly.
Safety is huge to me because I have 3 kids. And let me go a little further. My 3 kids, when they go to the pediatrician, are not on the 100th percentile of height and weight, which means they're not like the biggest kids in the world. They're on the lower end of that spectrum, meaning safety is even more important. My wife's not a large woman in terms of height or stature, and neither am I. So our kids are on the petite side. And so therefore safety matters even more because my kids need to be in car seats longer. They need to be protected longer.
Okay. And so you've answered my question. Thank you for that. But I want to know more. So why does that matter to Derek Kelly?
My kids growing up, being able to do things in their heart, right? That's important because if they would get in a car accident and would, I don't know, get bruised up or even worse, something worse happen, that affects the trajectory of their life. And I want to take precautions. Like, why would I not plan as best I could to protect my children?
Yeah, that's a great answer. But at the same time, not everybody views it the way you do. And so it's great that you do that. And it's sincerely, but you're leaving out, in my opinion, at least, and I want to hit on it. So it's also possible that if we have an unsafe vehicle and we have this accident that we weren't able to avoid because it didn't have the safety features that you really wanted, it is also is possible that your children could die.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how does that feel to you?
Unbearably atrocious. I don't know. I can't pick the right word.
So I want to show you how our vehicle is really safe because I can't imagine that being the end game. I can't even, you know the story of Hannah.
I know.
You know it better than anybody.
Yes.
And people will talk to me about that. And Amy and I both say the same exact thing literally every single time. We can't even imagine it. So if we can't imagine it, how could we possibly understand what poor Kathy and Dave and Jessica, who you've met them all, are going through with having lost their daughter, their sister? We can't even contemplate it. We can't. In other words, we say, I can't even imagine such a thing. Unfathomable. So safety is really important because the fact is that when there are accidents, unfortunately, and it makes me very sad, I get emotional just thinking about it, but people do die and people do become paralyzed. All kinds of bad stuff. And I'm not laughing. I got a little bit of a laugh there, but I'm not laughing. It's a very serious matter. So my goal today is to show you how my vehicle is really safe. And when we're all done, if you don't feel it's safe enough, then we'll part friends. Because I think it's really important for you to have a safe vehicle versus buying whatever I have. I'm not gonna let you do that today. I'm gonna show you how this vehicle works, and hopefully I can provide enough value that at the end of the day you'll say, okay, this one's for me.
Yeah.
Make sense?
That's great because I think what that does is it shows that you really care.
I do care.
And that you're not just willing to I'll sell you whatever product. If you want a Jeep, get you a Jeep. If you want a key, I'll get you a key.
I think it's a huge mistake.
Right?
I think we got to be very careful with that one. I think if we ask the right questions up front, we'll know. And then at the end of the day, Derek, you said safety was important. You know, this doesn't have that one feature. And you earlier decided you said, okay, I'm good. It's got enough that I'm happy. But we gave you the opportunity to say, let's look at another one. And you said, no, I think this one's good enough. And you and I have talked about this many times over the years. Close enough is oftentimes good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. How close can we get to perfect? And that should be the focus of any kind of a strategy, whether it be a sales strategy or a learning strategy, whatever the case may be. What can we do? You know, if our kids, you want your kids to excel in school. If they get all B's from now to the end of their schooling process, if they get all B's, which is not an A, how'd they do?
They actually did excellent.
They did pretty dang good.
Yeah.
If they get all B's.
I remember.
That's a 3.0 average, bell to bell. They did pretty good. Did they do perfect? No. Perfect is not necessarily, sometimes in an effort, and you've heard me talk about this, in an effort to be perfect, we miss a lot. Because almost is good enough. Almost, for example, almost hitting the goal. The goal was to make X per year. And if we get 10% below that, somebody could say, you didn't hit the goal. I came close.
Yeah.
And I'm doing okay. But I'm also happily married. And I'm also raising my children. I'm also walking in the park once a week with my dogs or whatever it looks like. I've talked about this many times. Wealthy, lonely, you bought the wrong program. So we're going to be careful what we wish for. So, yeah, maybe you didn't hit the goal, but you came pretty darn close. And to me, you did hit the goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it just reminds me of a time when I was in high school and I was getting B minuses in this honors English class. I was probably a junior in high school. And I remember going after the teacher. It was a tough course, right? It was like, there was like 3 levels and this was the highest tier. So it was tough stuff, right? We're almost in the senior year. And so
it's a college course, probably.
Yeah, pretty close to a college course. And I went to her and I said, man, because there was a next step as a senior, you took AP, which gave you college credits as a senior. And I said, I don't really think I'm cut out for this. And she said, hold on, I think you should do it. And I said, I'm getting B minuses, C pluses in your class. What do you mean? She said, I think that you think very differently. And at some point in your life, other people work for you. I thought, that's weird. I don't know if I want that. She's like, all these A students are really good at these things, but they don't think the way you think. You think like a leader.
Critical thinking.
And I was like, huh. And I said, but my friend Philip is getting all A's because the teacher had to approve the person to go to the next, like the teacher had to sign off like Jim Shorkey is good enough to go to this next class.
Gotcha. Yeah.
My friend that was getting A's, she said, I don't think he can do it. He doesn't cross his T's and dot his I's. But I can? That stumped me. But it's that power, what you're talking about in terms of mentorship, in terms of recognizing that, just building that trust with that client, but also recognizing just taking your gifts and the things that you have and continuing to work on them and iterate.
Let's go way back now. Okay, I got you, by the way. You're going to find out real quick. Let's go way back.
Uh-huh.
You were born when?
I was born at 24 weeks, so about
That's not what I asked you. You were born when? I want to know your birth date.
On October 18th of 1990.
1990. Yep. And what was the prognosis at that time?
Day 1, everything looked fine. No problems. Somehow this was a miracle. Day 2, the exact opposite. He's probably not going to make it. You probably shouldn't name him, right?
Makes me sad.
Yeah, that was day 2.
Yep. I'm sad now.
Now we're at day thousands and thousands.
But wait, no, day 2. It didn't happen that fast. Come on, give yourself credit. So now you're in first grade. Let's go a big leap. What was that prognosis then?
That prognosis was my brain wasn't going to develop past 13. Okay, so I'm 6 or 7, something around that age.
Let's go to 13 now.
13 was, we think he's pretty smart and he should take these tests to see if he's gifted. I was barely under it. That was insecure in some ways. Oh, I thought I was pretty smart. But they were seeing, oh, maybe we were wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
And so let me interrupt you. You have issues with vision as a result of the way you came about to this world.
Yep.
Am I right or wrong?
Correct.
What are those issues? Now, today, you're how old now?
Yeah, so I'm 34, going to be turning 35.
Okay, 34, turning 35. Not going to make it.
Yep.
Brain's not going to develop, and here we are. So tell me your situation with your eyesight today.
Yeah, so typically when somebody can see something at 20 feet, it may take me, typically what they can see it at, let's say 20 feet, it may take me to get to 10 feet to see it.
So it's a disability.
10 foot closer or 0 foot closer.
It's a disability of sorts.
Yep.
It's definitely a disability, not one that you're letting stop you, but nevertheless, it is a disability of sorts.
Yeah.
So now let's fast forward to this teacher, who was a great teacher, by the way, who encouraged you.
Yeah.
But this little boy who wasn't going to make it, brain wasn't going to be developed fully, don't know that he's ever going to be able to, you weren't able to drive.
Yeah,
you probably won't be able to
get all
drive.
these court cases to confirm.
So this is a real story.
Yeah, I was reading the eye chart saying they were numbers when they were really letters, which that's funny, but also not good.
It's a tough situation. So nevertheless, but you did drive here today. And you are sitting here talking to me, which is a miracle in and of itself because you weren't even supposed to make it. And you are cognitive and you are able to take your brain, and your brain says a signal to these hands that says, hey, Derek, move that right hand. Okay. Shake your fingers. Okay. Do it right now.
Yep.
What's going on there?
Simple.
This brain that wasn't going to develop the whole way, which would mean if it really, I don't know how far they said it was going to develop, but if it didn't develop to a certain point, you wouldn't even be able to move your hands.
Right.
Because the brain wouldn't be working properly. So look at you, man. Look at you and think about that. So you went through some trials and tribulations, but here you are.
Yeah.
And yeah, brother, you made it. You are a miracle in so many different ways.
Yeah. I don't really know how that connects, Jim, to building trust with the client, but that was good.
In order to build trust with a client, we have to figure out what really floats their boat, so to speak, what gets them excited, what gets them emotional, and then what's a reason why that makes them cry. And then we need to go to work on delivering that.
Yeah.
And the fact is we can. We really can. I've said this before, I'll say it one more time. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And how do you get them to know that you care? By asking the right questions, by listening with your ears and your eyes. You'll see it. When somebody gets emotionally involved, you'll see it. It'll be so obvious. Oh boy, there's this one here. I better work on this. This is a very emotional situation. I can see it with my ears and my eyes and the whole thing, the body language, whatever. So I do see with my eyes, but I also see with my ears too. I'm seeing it in my mind. So I can see it. It's very obvious. And so if I ask the right questions and I deliver on that, that's going to create the value. The higher the value, because I'm going the customer's way, the higher the trust.
Yeah.
And so have I done the work to be trustworthy? That was your original question. I forgot about that actually. And you said the client's maybe not, you turned on the client being trustworthy. No, we trust the client. We trust the people we're dealing with. We're going to trust them as best I can unless they totally violate that.
Yep.
And then we move on. But you're the one that's got to become trustworthy as a salesman, not the client.
Yep.
You have to become trustworthy. The client, by the fact that they're here, they're worthy of my trust. Now think about that.
Yep.
Distinguish the two. They're worthy of my trust.
Right.
And I'm going to trust them until they prove otherwise. Does that make sense?
I agree.
That's
I agree.
the answer. Long answer to a short question.
Yeah. True. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for getting deeper into my heart and my why. Thank you, guys. Again, comment, subscribe. Let us know if that was impactful for you. Hearing our
Impactful
real
for me.
stories.
It's impactful for me. It is.
Yeah.
It's really impactful for me. And so all I can do is to be impacted and deliver on the message. And again, if you don't like the message, please tell us, because we do. We get off on rants, and this is all visceral. This is not planned. I don't have any idea where this is going until Derek starts the conversation. This is all extemporaneous, visceral. It's all heartfelt, and we're going to keep rolling. So thank you so much for joining.